Good morning. Welcome to the Philippine panel. My name's Alvin Juban, and we have a small association in the Philippines, and we call it, obviously, it's the Game Developers Association of the Philippines. And with that platform, we tend to gather uh, and we try to unite the ecosystem of game development in the Philippines. This year has been the biggest showing, I think, of Filipino game developers. If you've gone around the expo there, you'll find a lot of Filipino chatter. And so this year, with the help of our friends Chris Natsume, it was suggested that we come up with an esteemed panel of indie developers. Uh, Years back, Filipinos in the game industry were primarily, even me, we were primarily known for outsourcing. And now we've taken a turn, we've pivoted, and we're putting out more original content. And I guess it's about time. So for this session, we've gathered some of the best known indie developers, the people we think, that have made a mark and are continuing to gain ground in the industry. So I will start from the farthest left, the eldest. Who doesn't know Gabby Dizon? Okay, from Altitude Games. Microphone. Oh, they're not working. No?
Hi, my name is Gabby Dizon from Altitude Games. So I've been making games from the Philippines since 2003. Been part of several companies since then. Uh, Also a founder and former president of the Game Developers Association in the Philippines. Last year, we started a new studio called Altitude Games and focusing on original mobile free-to-play games. And we're currently developing our first title, Run Run Super 5. It's out in soft launch in several Southeast Asian countries and going worldwide later this year.
Okay, so I'm Sharan, CEO and founder of Quickfire. Oh, CEO and founder of Quickfire Games. I just had a talk there about our Kickstarter. Our first game was funded on Kickstarter. We got funded in December 2013, and we've been working on that game for the last almost 2 years now. And we're hoping to launch it later this year.
Silvestre of
Hi.
Keyball Games.
Yeah, so I'm Silvestre. I've worked with Flash games since 2009, I think. So I have made many quirky and weird games, and then I have developed some really good hits. And I think it shows that Flash games are really good. Have really good. You can get really good ideas from Flash games because we focused on the virality of the game. So until now, I'm using the Flash games. I'm still using Flash actually to make mobile games, and then Steam game. And so I wish to make more games.
All right, thanks, Barry. And last but not the least, definitely, Eric Garayblas.
Hi everyone, I'm Eric. I've been doing games independently for about 15 years now. I also founded my own company. It's called Kui Mobile. We made the game called Street Food Tycoon, which has about, I think, more than 20 million downloads now. So I hope I can share with you what I know about the mobile industry.
All right. So how I made them sit together. The first two guys, Gabby and Sharon, are actually people who've been funded. So it makes a great difference. The last two have been self-funded. So they've been attacking this industry in two different ways. And for that, I'll start with Eric. First question: how big is your actual team? It's been confusing when you say, "I'm an indie company, I'm an indie developer." How many people do you really have? It sort of matters. Eric, how many people?
Right now we're about 5 now. But I started as a one-man team, but I have I realized that you have to keep up with updates, and in order for me to do that is to hire more people to continuously update our game so that I can focus on new products.
When did you get 5 people? You said 15 years of development.
Well, I started to form my team last year, just last year.
Just last year. So after 14 years, you decided you needed help.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Barry, the rebel.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people are in Keyball actually?
Actually, I am still one person. I just collaborate with other artists. So actually, every game I make, I start from scratch. So I'm like a new game developer every time I make a new game. So I look up for people who wants to collaborate. So we give out our ideas. So it's actually two at most people, but he keeps his name in the game, so he keeps his logo, and I put my logo. So I really don't have a formal company to put. So
When you say collaborate, are you talking about your little circle of Filipino friends, or do you go?
no. I post online, and then I know a group of developers, so I just ask them if they want to collaborate. So I have worked with a Russian now for Kill the Plumber. He's a Russian in America. Last time I worked with a Canadian and also Indonesian, and then I've also worked with other Filipinos. Yes.
All right. So we'll jump to Sharon and Gabby. Sharon, so like Gabby, you've been quite successful. These guys are very, very notable. Getting support for especially for games industry is difficult enough. So you can imagine our challenge when we're coming from the Philippines. So this is significant. Sharon, you've made headway in getting funding, left, right, and center. When did you really start getting your funding, and how big is your team now? How do you scale up?
So we started with our Kickstarter where we got 60 grand. When we launched our Kickstarter, we were 5, I think. After our Kickstarter.
So off the bat, Kickstarter, you got 60 grand. It was that easy for you?
Sorry. Oh, no, it was not easy. It was hard. I had a whole 20-minute presentation on it, so I could go on forever.
Yeah.
But so we got our funding. We started scaling up to about 10. Then we got our first angel, and we went to about 13, 14. We got our second angel, and we're about 16, 17 now. Permanent staff members, and we've got about 8 to 9 interns. And we always make it a point to hire interns that we want to incorporate into the company because we put a lot of training and a lot of effort into turning them into professionals. So I think if you include the interns, we're almost just over 30.
All right.
I think this might work.
Okay. Gabby, you've made the most news the past year.
So we started Altitude in March of last year, and there were 5 of us who started the company. And now we're at 23 people across 3 teams. And what's your question about funding? So we start.
When did you get it, and then how do you scale up to this point?
Yeah. So the main reason we got the early funding, even though all we had was a team at that point, we had no real game idea. We didn't have a company. What we had was 5 very experienced team members who were pretty much part of the pioneering group of game developers in the Philippines. And we got enough funds to kind of prove ourselves that we could work as a team and make a game. So we started in March of last year, and the money was designed to last actually just until December. And before December came, we already were able to soft launch our first game and kind of make a small splash. We went to Casual Connect in Singapore last year with it, and show people that, hey, yeah, these guys could actually make a game. So in December, we got an investment from Surpass, who had just gone public in the Philippines. And we also work with Surpass for distribution rights of our games to several countries in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines. So we're released there. And now we're continuing our soft launch to take the game to the rest of the world.
Okay, so for you who know very little about the Philippines, we're a little bunch of islands with roughly around 100 million people. We are generally English speaking, and internet penetration is pretty high. Smartphone penetration, I think, is around 40% of the population. So as we know in game development, when we are making games, we have to actually target a demographic, target a market, right? So I'm gonna go back to Gabby, since he has probably the longest experience, and he mentioned earlier he started a team of experienced people, and now they're making a push for their first game. Gabby, where are you pointing your game at? Where do you want the markets you want to conquer? How do you guys think about it? What made you decide?
Okay, so we have I guess a two-pronged approach to targeting players with our game. Because our experienced game developers, and a lot of this applies to a lot of Filipino developers, because a lot of them were making games for abroad for outsourcing. So a lot of the skills we had were actually making games for a more Western market. But with our investor and our partner, which is Surpass, which is actually good at monetizing like Filipino mobile users, not necessarily gamers. So we kind of forked a version of our game and wrap it around the Surpass business model, and we actually released that in December with great results.
Okay. Sharon, you're kind of new, you know, a couple of years, and you're using a Japanese themed game at first. Why? And
so-
where are you going with it?
Our game is a farming RPG inspired by Harvest Moon. So it made sense to continue targeting that demographic, the Harvest Moon demographic, and that all of the Harvest Moon games and the related RPG games are all very Eastern anime art style. So we wanted to stick with that to make sure we were capturing the same demographic across the world, both the Japanese market and the anime style game market abroad as well.
All right, Barry. Barry, I've been watching you for years, and your games, for me, at first glance, they don't seem to. I mean, there's no genre you're really following. I mean, now you're about to kill a plumber.
Yeah.
I mean, last year you were more romantic, were pretentious.
Yeah.
What's the psychological reason for your games, and where are you throwing it? Where's your market?
Actually, it's very niche. I don't know the pronunciation, but it's niche. So
That's correct.
It's something. I go for people who just want something different. So pretentious game is actually a mockery of the pretentious art games.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it became its own pretentious game. So, and now Kill the Plumbers is just my tribute to old gaming style, Mario games. So I played them since Mario 2 on family computer or NES. So I think my game design is about what I would like to play if I see this game, and what I would love to see people would make. If, for example, if Nintendo will make a game that you can play as the enemies, then I would play that game and maybe enjoy it. And hopefully, I wish people will make some really new ideas and make something new to play that people would want to play.
All right, Barry. Eric. Now, Eric is actually, with his Street Food Tycoon game, he's actually made a franchise of it. I mean, sort of,
Yes.
yeah. And explain, how did you start? 15 years ago, you made Street Food Tycoon, the original one. You've pushed forward with it. What's the rhyme and reason for doing that? And where is it going now?
Well, yeah, I started 15 years ago, way back when we still had the Palm OS devices. I'd done games for G2ME, Symbian. Then I moved over to iPhone and then Android. Now doing games solely for Apple devices and Android devices. Oh, Street Food Tycoon is actually... I've always wanted to put up my own food cart business. So I guess that's where the frustration came.
A real one?
A real one,
on
a
the
real
street
one. Yeah.
With fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, back then I didn't have the funds to do that. But I knew how to make games, so I made a simulated version of like managing your own food cart. So that's how Street Food Tycoon was born.
All right, all right.
And now he makes more money than all of those food carts combined.
Yeah. If you combine all the food carts in the Philippines. Yeah. But now you have a new game,
Yeah, I have
Barber
a-
Hero.
I have a
How's
new-
that related to your success? I mean, you had a franchise. You have a franchise, and you suddenly come up
Okay,
with
so
something new.
I've always been fascinated with simulation games, and Barber Hero is actually a simulation of how you would operate a barber shop.
Okay.
So it's quite related in a way. Yeah, I would say.
All right. I'm going to for my next question. I'm going to start with Eric this time. Let's talk about the Philippine market. Okay.
Sure.
Everybody wants to know. We're not really the darlings of the publishers of the world. What's been your experience with the Philippine market? I mean, how has it affected your game, your profit margin? What's been happening?
Well, sadly, sadly, I've learned that revenue from the Philippines is very minimal. Yeah, but the thing is, Filipinos are very what I would call vocal. Yeah, so once they loved your game, they would talk about it on all social media channels. They would go viral and spread the word to their friends. So I guess that's one of the factors why Street Food Tycoon became really popular, because when people are in the Philippines started playing it, they would post screenshots on Instagram, share it on Facebook, and then it just grew from there. Their circle of friends would notice it, download the game, share screenshots.
You got celebrities mentioning your game in noontime shows, right?
Yes.
What's that? Yeah.
You got celebrities mentioning your game in noontime shows.
Yes.
I want to ask, since Gabby mentioned it, did you pay them?
No.
So
I was actually surprised when I saw famous celebrities from the Philippines.
Yeah, because now people actually create online marketing campaigns, and you're telling us that you did not mean for it to happen. You just let it ride.
Yeah. So they just discovered the game probably from their friends. And then they were posting about it too, sharing it on TV, on magazines, newspaper articles. And so it went really viral.
Okay. And are you doing the same thing with your new game? I mean, you don't really have a campaign for yourself, or?
Well, the thing was, with us indie developers, we normally don't have launch strategies or campaigns. We just make the games that we love.
Ooh.
And I guess we're lucky that we were given that resources to make the games that we like. Actually, I have this new game now. It's called Warriors of Nom Nom. It's at indie price right now. So it's a food eating contest.
Okay.
Actually, it's you battle it out with other players. So the first one who finishes the food wins. So I just put a ladder ranking in it. So you get to rank. You see yourself rank with other players globally. So we just like Barry, just make the games that I wanna try, experiment on. Yeah.
But predominantly, since the Filipinos don't really convert, as you say, but where does your conversion happen?
Surprisingly, most of my market are coming from US and UK. So I guess these guys love street food too.
Maybe when they come over to Asia, that's what they eat.
But I've also discovered that some countries, some culture could not relate to the street food that I put in the game, which is why I decided to create a sequel of Street Food Tycoon, which I called Street Food Tycoon World Tour. This time to cater to other cultures. So it depends on which country you would like to start your business. So you would have to sell the street food that's popular in that country.
Eric, how important was that virality that you got in the Philippines for getting users who are actually paying in other countries?
Well, I would say it's really it paved the way for me to get that millions of downloads. So it's really played a huge role in my launch. Yeah. But I never really planned for it to, and I just made the game. Just thought it was fun, and I actually used my daughter to play test my game. So if it's fun for her, I figured it would be fun for everyone else.
Can we hire her?
Sure.
Barry. So how has the Philippine market been treating you?
Yeah. Okay. So I had some sales.
Really?
By maybe some.
All right.
Some sales.
Oh.
So, but the problem is I have a browser-based version.
Yeah.
And Filipinos are really what do you call that? They
Thrifty.
Thrifty. They want to save money, so you can play that for free online. So some people will tweet it, and then I want to unlock the levels. I want to unlock the chapters. I enjoy chapter 1 because you can only play chapter 1 on mobile. Okay, you can play it for free on browser. So that's the problem. So, but the virality, like Eric said, Filipinos will share your game to everyone, and even the celebrities. I have a game which is a Filipino version of Hangman. So I'll see celebrities from really high top celebrities who would tweet and post a screenshot of their game. So I didn't put a plug-in to make
You
a
didn't pay
screenshot.
them?
They just press the screenshot button of their phone and then just post and tweet your game. So you will reach many people.
And you again, you didn't pay them. You didn't
Yes.
contact them to tweet.
I think they like seeing their names in their games, or I don't know, or maybe they just want to share what they like, and they want to start a trend.
Okay.
Yeah, so they feel good if they start a trend. I think I think every celebrity feels that way.
Yeah. And we do have you. Sharon, you're kind of new. You're newly opened your game.
Yeah.
How are we treating you?
So we recently launched on Steam Early Access, and like Barry, we actually have some sales from the Philippines.
Woohoo!
And it's surprising because our game is quite pricey. It's a $30 game. But what's been really interesting for the Philippines is the particular type of demographic that we're targeting. You know, the anime fan or the anime sort of Harvest Moon type fan. They're relatively the same across the world. So the Philippines has been really great as a low-cost way to get feedback for our game. It's great to go to the local expos, go to the schools, and let people play our game. We get there, as they said, Filipinos are very vocal, so they always make it a point to tell us what they don't like about our game, what's not working, what frustrates them, and we're able to do it in a very cost-effective manner because we are in the Philippines and everything is a lot cheaper there. So for us, it's really been more of a source of input rather than a source of revenue. But I do believe that once we launch, we will be able to get maybe not a substantial, but a fair amount of sales from the Philippines because it's a lot harder to get fake stuff in the Philippines or pirated stuff in the Philippines, and again, our game is not really a mobile game, it's more of a retail or digital game. The biggest video game retailer there is quite big, it's Datablitz.
Yeah.
They have a branch in almost every corner. So I think that there is a market in the Philippines, it's just a tricky one.
Gabby?
Yeah, so let's talk about that tricky Philippine market. In the game industry, Philippines is usually seen as a place to soft launch your game. That's because the Philippines has a huge English-speaking market that really loves playing games. So engagement is very high. But traditionally, as seen by the West, the pay conversion rates are very low. So what a lot of studios have done around the world is that when they start soft launching their game, they go to the Philippines to test retention, to test bugs, or if they want to get an early community out that, for example, for multiplayer games, if they need a mass of players that later paying people would engage with, then they go to the Philippines first to kind of build that player base. So couple that with what people have seen as a very low credit card penetration rate, it's around 3%, then the rest of the world thinks that there's no money to be made in the games in the Philippines. But there are two things that you have to know when it comes to payment. One is the access to wallet, and the other is the price point. So access to wallet, what people don't know is that probably in a certain month, the average revenue per user for all like mobile services that a person consumes, so that's call, text, minutes, games, whatever, it's probably like under $4. So that's everything already. And games have to fit in that sort of wallet in everything that the player does. The second is that if you look at the lowest price point of an in-app purchase, so it's at 99 cents. So 99 cents is roughly like over 40 pesos, which is, so the lowest payment that you can get for in-app purchase is already 1/4 of the total budget per month of the average mobile user. So we partnered with our investor Surpass to kind of make these games more accessible to Filipinos, and the price point that we actually start with is 5 pesos or something like 10 cents. And when you go to a lot of these similar emerging markets, Philippines, Indonesia, I don't think you should be looking at $1. I think you should be looking at 10 cents as the base price for entry for monetization.
And he's the only one who's mentioned that he's coming off from the Philippines, going to Southeast Asia. Is it working out, Gabby? You have been getting great traction, I think, especially from Thailand.
Yeah, we actually even in the Philippines. So as I said, we work with Surpass, and we have telco billing through Globe, and the results have been fantastic for us. We're very happy with it.
Oh, okay.
I also just want to mention one other thing about the Philippines, and building on what they were saying about virality. The Philippines, I think, has the largest, or one of the largest, overseas communities in the world. And again, launching something in the Philippines, and you like this game, you tell your friends and family, who are abroad in the U.S. and the people in the Philippines may not spend, but their brother or cousin or sister who's working as an OFW in Singapore or in the United States may end up becoming a customer. So again, leveraging that foreign Filipino community through launching first in the Philippines can also be very powerful.
All right. So next one, I'm going to talk about more of our future. What's coming next for the Philippines. Historically, there's only been one college, one university who has been teaching game development in the Philippines, and they've been doing it for 5 years. But early this year, late last year, we finally won a memorandum to allow actually other colleges and universities to teach proper game development. So we of course, to us, this is welcome news. But think about it. It just really started. I have friends from Malaysia here. I've visited them. They've been doing this for quite a while. So let me ask, just so that they know, Eric, what was the course you graduated with? What's your background? Engineering. Gabby, what was your course?
Management Information Systems. It's like an IT business course.
Sharan.
So I actually did not study in the Philippines. I studied in the UK. I moved to the Philippines 7 years ago, but I studied contemporary media arts.
Barry, what was your course?
Accounting.
Oh, the best course.
I have actually worked for accounting firm. I entered the official receipts, try to balance. It's a really very boring job, and you just want to go home. So when I was doing that Excel, I had this finance manager who's a really good friend of mine. He's a good programmer, so he used the macros on Excel, and we just did like automating everything. So you type the number, and it will type in the number in words. So if you I am printing checks. I type in 12 0, and then it will print out TWELV 12 as in words. So that's the only creative thing I think that I have done during that time.
It's worked out.
Yeah, I was programming on Excel at that time.
Well, that's our history. So with the good news that we are starting a real game education, the guys that you work with in the Philippines, where are they coming from? I mean, because you've been doing this for a while. Where do you get your talent? Gabby, where do you get your talent? Where do you find them?
I'm actually like super upbeat about the talent base in the Philippines. Like I've talked to developers around Southeast Asia, like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and like a lot of them have their own upsides and downsides. Everyone has like problems to bitch about, and yeah, it's no different from the Philippines, where there are a lot of things to complain about in the ecosystem, and we can fill up the whole hour just by doing that. But one of the things that makes the Philippines unique and attractive for game studios is that there's actually a good base for talent. So we started with 5 people in March. We were up to 16 in December. We're around 24 now. And we could be at around 30 to 40 now if we wanted, still being kind of selective in the quality of developers that we have. I would say up to like 50 to 70. It would be not that hard to have a company of that size. If you're trying to go for like 100 and more, then it would be more difficult.
Sharan, where do you find your quirky people who drink too much?
So we are very aggressive. We have a very aggressive grassroots program. So we, aside from our senior staff, I'd say half of our team, we got them as fresh graduates from university, mostly from LaSalle, and we spent a lot of time and effort training them. It's getting a little easier to find more experienced developers in our experience, but we still find we have to train most of them. And that's fine with us because it also helps produce a culture fit. But what I am finding is every year, the newest batch of graduates is probably about twice or 3 times better than the previous batch. So I just get more excited for each new year's output of students because they're starting to be as good as some of the experienced developers that we're finding, particularly the people that are top of the class. So I'm excited to see what the schools put out as they gain more experience in teaching the various art courses.
Barry, when you do work with Filipinos, where do they come from?
I actually have written the names of the people I have worked with in the Philippines. And these are all, I think, are all home-based. They don't want traffic, they don't want bosses, and they want to work in their underwears. So I have worked with 7 people. So
all in their underwear. All in their underwear.
Yeah, maybe naked.
I want to see that online.
Yeah, maybe naked. Yeah, we do that on Skype.
Underwear meetings.
Yeah. The problem is we're all males.
Oh. Please do not include me in that meeting.
we can include you in a group chat.
Yeah.
So anyway, 5 of them are artists and 2 musicians. So I just met them online. One of them is my high school friend. Actually, he was a call center agent actually before, until I pulled him into the game development world, and then he quits his job, and then now he's full-time making games. Actually, he did some art for Eric.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
in his underwear also? No.
I don't know about Eric if he wears underwear. But anyway, it's referral. So I've worked with Robot with a Smile, and I've known them from Eric. So it's and Aoki. So it's referral, and mostly people who work from their home, from their wherever they are comfortable.
Okay, Eric. So now you have a gigantic company of 5 people, and it's taken you 14 years to decide who these 5 superheroes are going to be. Where'd you find them finally?
So like Barry, I've also worked with friends and referrals by friends. But in the Philippines, we also have this group of indie developers in which we usually do this meetup every month. And that group has turned now into a vibrant community. We have a lot of indie developers now. So I attend that meetup regularly just to, scout for talents, meet new developers, new people. So actually, I'm very specific with depending on what project I'm working on, because I feel that these people would be more appropriate for this kind of project than my previous one. So it really depends on where I am at that point. But I always make it sure that I'm more active in the local community.
All right. So they have different solutions for each. So we'd like to spend the rest of the time, and we'd like to open the floor for questions. Nothing about underwear, please. Questions? Questions? Oh, okay. We'll start from the gentleman at the back.
Yeah, give a microphone to them.
Oh yeah, you have the microphone.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Oh, it's James. You're also from the Philippines. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have a Filipino budget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun that way. Okay, so this question is for the panel. So I'm a developer myself, and I'm gunning to release an indie sometime soon. And obviously, the big question is where do I get users, right? It's a user acquisition question. I would like to know from the panel what's the best way, or what's worked with you most.
Okay, what audience are you looking at? Are you looking at Philippines or worldwide, or what?
I guess we can do it in phases. Phase 1 for a soft launch first, and you sort of answered that already earlier with the Philippines as a good way to start it off. But moving forward, international.
Yeah. Okay, so let me start because we actually have a user acquisition strategy now. So for our worldwide launch, we start with a very small soft launch in Southeast Asia, and we use countries such as Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand. So these are countries. So for example, for Philippines, if your app is based on in-app purchases, you can get pretty decent retention data. You can see what's working. You see if people actually want to download your game. You can do some A/B tests on like what features people like, when are they gonna drop out, and you can see your level funnel of how far they go in your game. What you don't see is where your game actually monetizes, because for in-app purchases, the Philippines is practically useless for that. Now Thailand has grown to be, I think, it's now a top 10 market in Google Play. Is that correct, Jan?
Probably.
Yeah, I think it's now something like number 10 market in Google Play, which means there's actually significant revenue coming from Thailand. It's significant enough that you can test monetization, but it's not like super big market that, for example, like in Australia or in Canada, in the US. So the next part of our strategy is trying the monetization testing in Thailand. And I think Singapore is also a pretty good market for that, because Singapore, of course, like everyone has a credit card, people actually buy in-app purchases. But your number of users here is very low, so you don't want to burn them too early, maybe. And when we think that like the testing here is good, and that's when we would go to countries such as Canada and Australia where user acquisition is very expensive, and we kind of like want to make our mistakes in the countries where we can acquire these users for cheaper and iterate our game accordingly. And by the time we hit Australia, we're actually a lot more ready to go worldwide.
Sharon.
Okay, so our strategy, again, is a little different because it's not really a mobile game, but the way that most of our community that we've developed has been organic. It all probably started, I mentioned it in my other talk, when we started building our community, we started going to forums. And there we started saying like, oh, this is our game idea, what do you guys think? This is what we're planning to do, we want feedback. And then from there, those people started telling other people, and we probably grew to a few hundred people in about a month, just by going to forums. Then the next step after that was we launched our own forum, our Facebook page. We probably migrated about 60% of our existing community to our forum. Through Facebook, we started putting out regular content. I think using Facebook as a community builder, content is very important. So having constant updates, graphics, screenshots of your game just makes it a little bit viral. So people will share it, their friends see it, and then they end up becoming a fan, or they end up becoming a follower of your brand. We probably spent, I think to date, maybe $500 or $600 on marketing. And we've got about on our Facebook page alone is about almost 5,000 likes, and it's a very highly engaged community. And again, we have at least one post a day, even if it's just a reminder. We have about 3 major content posts a week, and week on week we continue to see growth of our community, and it's mostly due to starting out with a small one and then just giving them lots and lots of content that they can just continue to share. And I think over the last 2 years, that's what we've done, and we've just continued to grow and grow and grow. And we're only really planning to spend on marketing when our game is finished and it's in a state that we're ready to start paying for people to come and find it. But aside from that, just content, tell people about what you're doing, and give them the tools or the stuff that they can share so that they bring in more people to your community.
Barry,
Yeah.
what's your suggestion?
I actually make flash versions of the game, so I can test the game, and so it's easy to get viral on web. And then if the game the game gets a lot of traction, we continue to expand on the game. So we double the content, and then we expand on the IP. And then some people will make YouTube plays. Actually, this is the first time I made a YouTube play of somebody who has 6.8 million subscribers. So now the game is now, the video now has 700,000 views. And then that's not the only one. I think there are 2 of them who has million of subscribers. Then 10 has 500,000. So we're still just waiting for PewDiePie to make it. Hopefully.
I'll give him a call.
But somebody asked me how hard it is to get PewDiePie. I told him it's like finding a needle in a haystack on the moon.
On the moon.
Yeah. So it's floating around, and it's really impossible. But the non-English speakers who has millions of subscribers, you can get them. The funny thing is I did not commented on them or sent them a PM. I don't know if the players are suggesting the game. That's how it got viral on the YouTube. So now we're expanding on the IP. We're doing a mobile version. You can play it on the indie price. And then we have a Steam version with level editor and multiplayer. So we are leveraging on the virality. And then also Touch Arcade Forum and Twitter. So that's the only 3 things I think are working for me.
Eric, Tycoon. How do tycoons do it?
Okay, so like Barry, my strategies, my user acquisition strategies are very simple actually. It's dependent on word of mouth. So my goal is, well, not exactly to make the best game, but to make a game that's worth talking about, that's worth sharing, that's worth people's time. And if it goes viral from there, then good.
From the heart. Yeah. There was another question. Sir.
Hi. Our startup is shifting to making games. We originally make mobile apps for businesses, but we want to break in and be true to ourselves and make games. So, are
Good
there
decision.
any are there any tips for starting out early on building a game studio?
Are you ready to fail?
Are you religious?
Not really.
No. I ask that because like with games, like everyone thinks that like their game is the greatest, especially when they're starting out, and especially if you're getting to it in the first time. But it's even something for us where we've been making games for a long time. Like you will make a lot of mistakes making your games, and just never put yourself in a position where one game's failure means your company goes under. Make sure that you have a strategy where you can learn from your first project and make the second one better, and just be able to keep on making games because you absolutely do not know which one will be the successful one.
Tips?
So it's very interesting because when we got into games in exactly the same way, my last company was a digital marketing agency. We used to make apps, websites for other companies. And we made the switch when we decided we didn't want to be a service company anymore. Like Gabby said, get ready to fail. Our first project, we spent working about it, I think, 8 months. It was a game called Hayaku Ninja. It's a ninja game. We have shelved it for the moment, and we now use it as a petri dish to test out different concepts. But for the longest time, we thought that was going to be it, and it wasn't. So you might need to make a couple of crap games before you can make your first game that you're, proud that people are talking about and playing with it. So it's not an easy journey, but it is a fun journey if you don't let yourself get bogged down by making mistakes and failures. Yeah.
How many are you in your team? 7. That's, whoa,
Yeah.
7 people.
I have one other thing I want to mention. Keep your eye on like on the money. Like Gabby said, don't bet everything on one project, but staying on top of your finances and being aggressive in how you manage it will make sure that you're able to keep your team together longer, and make sure that you're budgeting per project so that if a project fails, okay, we have a 6-month or a 12-month runway to work on 2 more projects. We need to manage this.
Okay, now for Barry and Eric, when you started, you both pretty much solo then.
Yeah.
Did you succeed in your first attempt?
No, it's very crappy. It's a single room escape game, and the hitbox are bad. The player has no clue on how to solve the game. You can't even find it on the browser anymore. I think they deleted every single trace of the game because it's that bad. Okay. So now I have like 100 crap games, but you have not heard of them because they're crap. And then so I have like 2 or 3 better games, and then maybe a dozen more hits on the browser Flash version. But I think the key is to make games as fast as possible. Don't spend too much time. But that's for me, okay? It's a different game for Sharan. He's making a really good, big game. So for me, it's very casual. It's 2-hour game, or that you can expand and update every week or every a few months or so. But for now, if you have a game, see if they are interested. If not, then move on. So for now, Pretentious Game had traction. Kill the Plumber had traction. So I also have some games that I have made part 3. So just know when to stop, when to stop on the development, and then when to continue. And it's leveraging. Is it called leveraging or abusing the popularity of your games that made it? Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can say it milking the cow.
Milking the cow. All right. Eric, what did you milk?
Okay, in my case, Kuyi Mobile is actually my second company. My first one is a failure. And then Kuyi Mobile, Street Food Tycoon is my 7th game already. So you really never know when you're going to get that hit. So I think your success will always depend on how tough you guys are going to be, how resilient you are. And you're only as good as your last game. So just keep on making more games. And the experience that you get from these is have good enough value to for you guys.
Questions? Sir. Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm Ian from How Gamers. I'm based in China, which is pretty close to the Philippines, and I was curious how you guys see the Chinese market and whether you see any potential in there. Obviously, Sharon probably not, but the other guys perhaps.
Okay, so I'll tackle that first. Our experience as developers are really making games for a more like Western, US-centric or a Western European audience. So it's not something we have a lot of experience on. And I think our particular strategy for China would be to look for the right development partner who would be able to take our game and be able to not just localize but really culturalize in terms of like what the Chinese gamers want to see from the game. So it's probably not something we'll be handling internally, but we'll be looking for partners for that.
So actually, we are interested in China. I wasn't too sure about how to address the Chinese market till very recently, where I met a potential partner in Bangkok, and they are a Japanese company that have a very large presence in China. We showed them the game, and they said that there is definitely an audience in China. The only issue is the approach will be a little bit tricky because console penetration is not particularly strong. The PC market is kind of all over the place in China. And for mobile, it's the same thing. You've got so many different providers, so many different app stores. So it will require a lot of thought. And it will require the right partners to enter the market, but it is something we are looking at, and it is something we want to do maybe middle or third quarter of next year.
Barry, there's a lot of underwear in China.
No.
Oh.
I've been to China actually, in IGF China, GDC China, where Pretentious Game got honorable mention, and then I did a little talk there, and then I was surprised that when I went down, some people wanted to meet me because Pretentious Game was a big hit in China, and I was really surprised because they're all males. I was looking for a female fan. And anyway, I was sorry. I'm just joking, but I'm just seeing if they're still. So I wanted to ask them where did they played it because I have not seen any significant downloads on mobile, but it's very big hit in browser. Again, it's probably because it's only in my case because I have a browser version, and it affected the mobile version. But the mobile version has translation, a Chinese translation, but the translation is still worth it. We did get the downloads for Pretentious Game Chinese version, but we did not get as much as UK or US. But anyway, the community there, they are very supportive of, how do you call that, different original games worth mentioning, worth talking about. They have many news sites, like How Gamers. They have many news sites in China, and their community is very active, talking about the games they like. So I think it's really worth it to penetrate. And again, I think it's viral, and they have like billions of people. So
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
I don't know why you shouldn't.
Eric, last word.
Well, as far as China goes, I have actually the same sentiments as these guys. And every month I get actually more and more emails from Chinese players who are asking for Chinese versions of my games, or if I had plans to localize. And it's actually, I think it's worth looking at. Definitely. Yeah, they love street food. The thing is, my game has a lot of say words in it, because you have to like to read or interpret data. It's a simulation game, so I need to like localize, do a lot of work in localizing the game.
There's one more thing I want to add. Barry reminded me about IGF China. We've actually applied for IGF China, and one of the things that I like to do is when we're not sure about a market, is to get a booth at one of the local expos, because then it's a really good way to get a pulse on the local market and see if there really is interest in the game. So that, we're looking to have a presence in maybe this year. If we don't get nominated, maybe next year we'll get a booth at IGF China, just to sort of confirm that there is really a passionate market there for what we're building.
Okay, I think that was we're out of time. So in behalf of Gabby, Sharon, Barry, and Eric, I'm Alvin from Synergy 88 and GDAP.